Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, where we look at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hi, and welcome back to Modern Musings. I'm your hostess, Cindy Murray, and I am here today with my co-hosts, Kristen Murray and Amber Jones.
Hello.
Hey.
And as we promised at the end of last week's episode, we are talking about reality TV. Now, we have previously talked about reality TV when we did our game shows episode, but I kind of want to take this a little bit different direction this time and talk less about the competition versions of that reality TV and more about some other ones that maybe you haven't thought about as reality TV, or the kind of the ones where it's like follow the life of so and so, and kind of talking about which ones we watch and how much of it is actually real, and because there are some questions about how much of it is really real. But I want to start out. I think one of the first ones that I remember from my childhood was Candid Camera. So that's a pretty simple one. Hidden camera, somebody's playing a practical joke or just something that catches people off guard, and they're catching the reactions of those people. So obviously that one is not reality because the situations, the scenarios are staged, but
the reactions
of those people are real. So, and those people are, as far as we know, surprised by whatever that scenario is. What did y'all ever watch shows like that? I mean, I think that show was in running for, I don't know, off and on for years and years and years.
There was one when we were younger that was kind of similar, I guess. Wasn't it called like Punked or something
Yes,
like
I remember
that?
that one too. Yeah.
So like Ashton Kutcher jumping out and punking people, kind of like Candid Camera.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an offshoot of that. The first reality show I remember as a kid is Real World.
Right.
Yeah.
On
Like
MTV.
that
right?
came out when I was a kid, and my mom and I used to watch it together.
Right. So talk about that one a little bit. I never watched that one, but it was an inspiration for a lot of other shows that came to
Well, yeah, it
to
was
follow
like
it.
it was like one of the first, maybe the first one of where like people moved into a house
Mm-hmm.
with all of these cameras, and they lived together under these house rules and worked together and bonded
Dynamic.
together, fought and shopped and did all of these things together, being followed by cameras in their house, hooked up, did whatever, and it was all filmed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, where I could say if it was real or not, or if a lot of like narratives were pre-written or kind of poked at by producers, who's to say? But it was like very groundbreaking.
Right. Right.
It opened it up for a lot of other shows similar.
Right. Well, and we'll lead that into some of those other shows that are kind of game show types, because the idea is to be the last standing, the last survivor, or whatever.
Yeah, like Big Brother.
Big Brother, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, kind of a similar.
Another
similar
thing. They all lived together in a house.
Right.
Yeah.
And so similarly, they're all. The editing on those is done very differently, but they're specifically edited in a way to emphasize certain things, to make certain people look more dramatic or more quiet, or look like the good guy or look like the bad guy.
Well,
And
it's still TV, like no matter, because I went through film school or whatever, but like it's still like TV hero's journey. Like you have to have
right.
like they edit it in a way to where there's a villain,
Yeah.
and then there's an innocent person, there's a champion,
Right.
And
But sometimes,
it's
really, in reality, that's why I say it's a little bit not reality, because sometimes the people that they're making out to be the villain, they're taking those reactions out of context.
yeah, they
Yeah.
and the producers probe these reactions out of people sometimes
Yes.
to get them. And there are a lot of stories in the media, like after these shows, like especially like The Bachelor or Bachelorette, about how the producers get these reactions
Hmm.
out of people just so they can creatively edit to make a hero or a villain or
Right.
a favorite based on like audience ratings, pretty much,
Right,
or
right.
based on like studio higher up ratings, like this person is going to do better on this show because they look better, so
Right.
we're gonna make
Or,
them
or
out
if,
to be.
if the ratings go up when this person acts bad, well, we're going to try to find more ways to make this person look bad. Right. And so there's that aspect of it not being entirely reality.
I guess it's reality in a sense that it is real people plucked off the street. They had to apply.
Hmm.
They had to be vetted to be thrown into these situations. Now, like, if you want like my early on opinion before we examine this further, it would be that like, yeah, it's real in a sense for that, but these people, and they say that they don't get paid, but they really are getting paid. How do you expect somebody to
They
just
do get
leave
paid.
their life?
Right. They
Like
get
there's
royalties
documented
and-
evidence online that you can find how much money
they've made. Yeah.
that they've made. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we move into this types of series where, like, maybe not necessarily strangers off the street thrown into a house, but we have the people like the Osbournes
Yeah.
or the Kardashians.
The strangers on the street come into their house. That's
Right,
already
but
established.
but
Yeah.
the cameras are all in the home of the Kardashians,
Well,
or
Clint
the,
Eastwood had a reality show like that too.
there's a
Yeah,
lot of
there was
those.
like Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons' Family
Yeah.
Jewels is one of my favorites, and we're going to get to this too. John Force Racing, he's a drag racer, and they did one with him. And in fact, they did a couple of a series of NASCAR races
Yeah.
where they did different drivers too. That I can't remember what that one was called. When I find it, I'll link it on Heard on the Podcast. But there's several different things like that where you're just following real people in who maybe live a life differently than what you live, and usually famous people.
Well,
So
see, like the Osbournes kind of had like a situation too, because you just see Jack and Kelly, but there was an older sibling as
Right.
well, and she didn't want to be a part of that show, so she was quote unquote written out of their life and
Right.
couldn't appear in their
Right.
life because
So they
she
would
didn't
have to-
want to be on
So
camera.
if anything
yeah.
happened, they would have to edit her out, and they could only use the parts that didn't have her in it. I did not really watch the Osbournes or the Kardashians, but being a lifetime fan of Kiss, I did have to watch Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, which I adored that show. It was hilarious. But I will say that the situations that came up were not situations that would have typically come up in that family's life. They were often staged situations. And I
Yeah.
will give you a specific example of it. And I'm going to try to be as PG as I can with it. But there was one episode where Gene was going to invest in cattle breeding, okay? And so he had to go to this farm where they were harvesting bull semen.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I don't know that he was actually interested in investing in this and they came up with the story about it, or if they thought this would be funny if we put Gene Simmons in this situation, which I think is what they did. I think they decided, I'm pretty sure that's what they decided, because they put him in a very awkward situation to harvest the bull semen. That is not how that happens.
Right. You know what? He is the money mastermind of that band.
Oh, well, yeah, he totally is a
Entrepreneur.
He is an entrepreneur, and he saw this as an opportunity. That this show was a great opportunity to further the success of that band, to further his income, whatever. More power to him. He is living the American dream. This is a man who was born in Israel, who immigrated to the United States legally when he was like 4 or 7 years old or something. And he has made the most out of his life. And I do not begrudge him any of that. If it's a funny made up story, that's great. But it's not reality. I really don't think that if those TV cameras had not been rolling, he would have been in that situation at all.
Right.
That is my point, is that those situations are all manufactured
To make $1.
to increase ratings. And that's great. That's fine, but don't call it reality TV. So, and I think a lot of those shows, that's where it's coming from. That's what's going on with that. And
people want to, like the masses, they want to see celebrities as us.
Goofus. Yes.
Yeah, they want to see they want to relate to them.
Yes.
Like the bull testicle people, like want to relate to, like, hey, Gene Simmons did this.
Right.
Jessica Simpson. Oh, I don't know the difference between tuna and chicken.
Yeah.
Well,
like I guarantee you that was probably staged.
Oh, that had to have been staged.
They told her to say that.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure. And like, it's so funny, like years later, she, recently I just saw a chicken by the sea. What is it called? Chicken of the sea?
Chicken of the sea.
Yeah. Commercial with her and her daughter in it, and they were reenacting that scene. And she like looks at the camera and she goes, "Yes, I knew it was tuna."
Yeah. But
yeah.
But her character that they were trying to develop on that show
was kind of like a dumb blonde.
Was that
like
she was
character,
a dumb blonde,
like she
right.
didn't know the difference between chicken
Right,
and tuna.
right.
And like the media had a field day with that, and
Absolutely.
it boosted her ratings,
It
her
also
album
kind of ruined her
sales.
career too.
Yeah,
Right,
it did
yeah,
kind
and
of
some-
like mess up. Yeah.
But there's like I say, there's all kinds of this visible, highly visible in all of these shows, and that's why I say, how much of it is really real and how much of it is staged or created. Maybe the reactions are real, maybe the footage is real, but yeah, I don't know. Would those people really be in that situation? Would they really say that if they weren't told to?
These celebrities, they're celebrities, they're actors in a sense anyway. Whether
Absolutely.
like Gene Simmons is an entertainer.
Yes.
So like these celebrities are entertainers in this sense where they know what is going to get the audience interested, whether a producer writes this or not, or whether it's all candid on their part, whether they would say it, they probably wouldn't say it in that situation, but they know this is going to get a reaction from the audience. So they're going to do these things and people are going to eat it up and love it.
Right.
And I guarantee you, most likely like 99% of the Kardashians, their show is the same way, because like and yes, I have watched episodes of it where like there are just some things on that show where it's just like, would they really do that or say that in that way. Is Bruce Jenner really like that? Now Caitlyn Jenner.
Right.
But
Right.
like when he was at the beginning of the show, he was Bruce. Is he really like that? And then like you see how Kylie Jenner is, she grew up.
Right. On that
She
show.
was little when the
Right.
show started, like 8 years oldish or something like that. And she grew up on
Mhm.
that TV in
Mhm.
that reality show. What is it like in her mind having grown up?
Right.
No, like always cameras all the time,
Right.
everywhere
Right.
in your house,
Do you
in
think
your
that
room.
do you think that changes um their personalities?
Well, I mean,
To the point where they feel like they're always under the microscope even after those cameras are gone?
oh, for sure. Like
Kelly
look at all the
Osbourne-
child stars.
Yeah.
Like all the child stars, the 80s child stars. I
Right.
mean, I know the 80s were rough
Well,
on
any
child stars.
any
but-
child stars, even going back to my age. I mean,
yeah,
you
but
look
like
at
look
Danny
how
Bonaducci.
a lot of them had rough years. Like they've made comebacks. Like Macaulay Culkin made a
Right.
comeback. But I mean, look at Amanda Bynes. Like,
But they're not even under the microscope
all the
in
time.
that same way. That's
They're
just
performing
they're performing.
Yeah, so what
so
is
when
it
you're
like-
talking about people like Kelly Osbourne
in
or-
their
or
safe
Kylie-
space of home where you're supposed
Yeah,
to be
in their
yourself and
home.
feel
yourself,
free.
and
Yeah.
you can't be
And
yourself.
they're performing because
You're performing
even-
all the time. Like,
even if it's reality, you are still performing because right
Right.
now we are performing.
Because think about yourself as a teenage girl. If you knew that cute boys were watching, would you act differently
Right.
with your family than you
oh,
would act?
sure. Like you
Yeah.
don't want to act, especially if you want to date or whatever. You
Right.
don't want to act like them. And even like the older girls, they were in their late teen. I think the youngest of the three was like maybe 19 or so when the
Uh-huh.
show started. So that's still like a very impressionable age.
Right.
Kim was like 22 to 25, something like that. So imagine like just being, now she's in her 40s. Imagine just like being followed around all the
Right.
time. And that media attention started way before that with
Right.
OJ
Right.
and her dad. And
Right.
so, and then her mom marrying a celebrity, what was he? Olympian, yeah. So all of that media attention started when she was young also. Whether it wasn't like cameras on her all the time, but like starting in her early 20s, cameras all the time, like
Right.
talking about her lips, talking about her butt,
Right.
talking about what she's wearing, talking about who she's marrying.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been like all the time.
Right.
Like Kim's not that much older than Kristen and I.
Right.
Like maybe a couple of years older.
They're like zoo animals in our TV.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
It's
yeah,
it's
it
like
is.
like most of our like since our early 20s, they've been zoo animals.
Yeah.
And then
think so,
the
too.
show went away for a while, but now it's back like on
Yeah.
Hulu. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And like I say, I think there's a lot of non-reality to those reality shows. I want to take it down to another step there. What about things like The Mole and The Amazing Race and Survivor and things like that?
I feel
We
like
already
those are
know that
staged.
those things are edited to
Yeah.
to look a certain way, but are those how much of that do you think is staged, and how much of it is actually what actually happened?
You know what? I think it all is, but I mean, it might not be. Like they might like set certain situations up to like really get like actual real reactions out of people.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like shows like Celebrity Rehab or whatever.
Right.
Like there has to be like a certain number of reaction
Right.
to get people watching.
Right. Right. Well, do you think? I mean, like when I'm thinking, it's like the mole or whatever. Well, I mean, obviously the mole has someone who's sabotaging
Mhm.
things,
Yeah.
and but like the Amazing Race or any of that kind of thing, or The Bachelor, do you think the producers influence the Bachelor or the Bachelorette to say don't pick that person or pick that person, or
I
you need
bet
to give
you,
this
I bet you
person?
they.
Oh, I just
You
heard
know
her
what
talking bad about you. Yeah.
No, like
I wonder.
I read, and I'll have to find the article to link it. There was an expose of like past, like bachelors and stuff like that, and they totally do. And one of the early on producers of The Bachelor actually went on to make his own like scripted TV show, and it
okay.
was called Unreal.
Uh-huh.
And it was like written, it was a bachelor like show, but it was fictional. But it portrayed a lot of these behind the scene things that are
that go
rumored
on.
and that like the
Right.
contestants say, even though they have to sign NDAs and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it like depicts like the actual reality behind these shows,
Right.
the manipulation, the producers,
So
them
so
pushing towards
this was his
certain
way
things.
of getting around his NDA.
Yeah, pretty
which,
much,
for those of
yeah.
you who don't know, that's a non-disclosure agreement. Which when these people go on these shows, all of the staff, all of the participants have to sign these NDAs that say they will not discuss with anybody anything that happened on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it prevents them from leaking the results ahead of time and things like that, but it also prevents them from telling the secrets of, this is what
Yeah.
really happened, and so that, maybe that was his way of
I bet
getting
you,
around
like,
it,
honestly,
taking
'cause
those stories and twisting them around a little bit.
there has been a lot of investigative reporting into these shows
Mhm.
to see like if like the reality behind quote unquote reality, and nobody has ever actually gone out and said like, hey, they have a winner already picked.
Right.
But I think that the producers probably have a winner that they want to
Maybe.
win, or at least a top two, probably
Yeah.
top three. And then maybe they get like, but
Or
it
at
was-
least somebody they want to last till the end.
yeah, like
Oh, because
they
there's
have
always
the villains.
seemed like there's one person that
That
you're just
everybody
like,
is
why
like,
does he
why
keep
does he
picking
keep
yeah,
her
like
on
they
there?
hate
Yes.
one person that they hate.
Yeah.
That the big villain, and even like I forgot what season it was, but I remember her name was Courtney, I believe, and I think she actually won, and
Okay.
nobody wanted her to win.
I
But
don't
like
remember.
she
It's
was
been
the
so long.
big villain of the season of the Bachelor season, and everybody hated her, and they're like, why does he like her? And she was like, so manipulative behind the scenes. But then
Uh-huh.
she went on to say that it really wasn't like that.
Right. That's
That
where I
she
say
wasn't
they
manipulating
edit.
the situation.
They take what they say and they edit
Yeah.
it and they put it in out of context. So,
Mhm.
it's like if you say, well, I don't like that, they'll take that out of this whatever conversation we're having and they'll put it in this other conversation and make it look like I said something bad about somebody else, or whatever. So, it
Yeah.
is. It's all
It's
manipulated. That's the word I'm trying to get to. Yeah.
yeah.
I
People
really
like,
think so.
People really eat it up, but yeah, that's always been fascinating to me. So I like read all the articles that I try to that I can about it because I for years I watched the show, and I remember us in college when it first came out.
it was like the first season, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
we sat in the little like room with the little TV, and all of us girls in the dorm watched the first season of The Bachelor, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
all
Yeah,
had
it was
like our favorites, and then The Bachelorette came out,
Uh-huh,
and we all
uh-huh.
watched the first season of The Bachelorette, and then we were just kind of hooked.
Right. I watched it for years, and
Yeah.
my husband always laughed, and he was like, "I don't know why you watch this," and I think for me, I like to watch it because of the stupid drama, because it reminded me of how petty girls can be, or
But
or
on the
boys can be.
Bachelorette, like boys are just as bad.
They are just as
Yeah.
bad, just
Or
in different
worse.
ways,
or
Yeah, they're-
worse,
or
honestly.
worse. But they just do different things. But it's
Yeah,
but it
they're-
is the same.
Yeah, they're
you know,
just as bad. Like
they
I
are.
like watching The Bachelorette more because I think it's funny the way the guys try to manipulate each other.
Oh yeah.
And did you ever watch I did watch one season of Bachelor Pad, but like the one that
Yeah.
came after Bachelor Pad, Bachelor
Bachelor in
Island or
Bachelor in Paradise. I used to watch
Did
that
you
one
ever
too.
watch that? Because
Yeah.
that was like I watched like a few seasons of that. And
Oh yeah.
that was that's probably my favorite over The Bachelor because they just like throw these guys on an island, kind of like Survivor, and like it's like fall in love or get eliminated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Oh my god, it's like they're holding a gun to their heads. Like,
Yeah,
you're not going to
honestly,
get paid
because
if you don't
it-
fall in love.
Yeah, you're not going to get paid if you don't fall in love and couple up with this person, or you're going to get eliminated. And then these people are all desperate, like trying to quote unquote fall in love, quote unquote get
Right.
married.
Right.
And all of those couples from like Bachelor in Paradise that they had to fall in love by the end of 5 weeks, and then like the ones that actually got married and they had to televise, they're all divorced now.
Probably. Yeah. Now there are a couple of people from The Bachelor that got married.
Yeah,
and
like
did
the
stay
very
married.
first Bachelorette,
Yes.
Trista and Ryan,
Yep,
they
they're
are
still
still
married.
together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think one of the was it the
Jerry O'Connell?
Jerry O'Connell. Well, it wasn't
I don't think
Jerry.
they
it was his
got-
brother.
It was
Charlie O'Connell.
Charlie
Okay.
O'Connell. They didn't get married, but they
They're
were
still
together. They got
together,
apart, but
like,
then
a
they got
while
back
back.
together. Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah,
So,
there are
yeah.
quite a few of them that are still together.
But then we had ones like what was his name? He was a football player, and it was Colton Underwood, and he came on the show. I can't remember if
Was
he
that the one that jumped the fence and ran away?
Oh, I don't know.
I think so.
But
I did
I
watch
know-
part of his season.
But I know that he was. I can't remember if he was a bachelor or if he was a bachelor on The Bachelorette. I
He
can't
was
remember.
on The Bachelorette, and then he became The Bachelor.
He did.
I
Okay.
believe so. Yes.
And then he wound up on Bachelor in Paradise, and there was like all these, and I think he wound up trying to hook up with one of the girls that he dumped on The Bachelor or whatever. But as it turns out, he turned out to be gay.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
He's the one that
Yes.
jumped he jumped.
And
the
he was
fence.
on that show pretending to try to find love. So I'm like, okay, how many times did that happen that we don't even know about? How many of those guys weren't really looking? That there was, and this was a big stink one year about the guy who kept playing his guitar all the time. He was
Yeah.
trying to get discovered,
Yeah.
So I think there was a lot of that going on too.
Mhm.
So
Well, yeah. There's a lot of gimmicks now, like
oh gosh, yes.
Shark Girl and
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Naked
Ri-
Guy.
Right,
and-
but those, I think they're just trying to get on the show and trying to stay on the show.
yeah.
But some of them were trying to become part of
Recognized.
that,
Yeah.
be recognized as part of that bachelor culture so they can move on to something bigger and better, or whatever. I don't know what Colton Underwood's thing was. Maybe he was in denial, or maybe he just wanted to try to cover up any rumors that were about. I don't know what the story was with that. I'm sure there's been all kinds of speculation. I haven't read it because I don't care. I just, pointed out that was fake. It was fake.
yeah.
So now here's another one that was completely fake. And I'm going to bring this one up, but Kristen's going to be the one that talks about it. Cheaters.
Oh, yeah. Filmed here in Dallas.
Yes. So,
really.
Yeah.
yes. Go ahead, Kristen. Talk all about that one.
Oh, well, Cheaters, I don't even know
I never even heard of
what
this one.
channel it was
I
on.
don't. It was a
may not
late
even
night.
be-
It was a late night show. I think.
It may not even be on the TV anymore, but they
don't
would
think it is.
get 3 people to participate. Two people who are having an extramarital or extra relationship affair, and then the one person who hires cheaters to investigate it.
Yeah.
And so they would seek out the cheaters company, program, whatever.
Right.
And tell them like their sad
Their
story,
sad story,
and like I
yep.
think he's cheating on me, and then they would go investigate and spy on the person, and they would have a camera and catch them
In
cheating.
the act of cheating.
Uh-huh.
Not the dirty deed.
But yeah,
Right.
they would catch them on a date or
Right.
leaving a place or something, and
Yeah.
then they would confront them,
Right.
and then they would get to speak their mind in front of the people in the camera, so that
Right.
we could all see their dirty business on TV.
Right.
So, funny story is that I actually know someone who wanted to do the show, and because they were in a relationship with someone, they pretended on the show that they were cheating, but the person that they were with, so the girl, my friend, was actually with her boyfriend, and the person that was hiring cheaters was the other friend, who was another man, that he was not actually in the relationship with her. And so he was like, I think she's cheating on me with some other dude, and it's actually like she's with her
real life boyfriend.
Yeah. So that was completely
totally fake.
totally fake.
Totally staged, scripted.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
staffed. Whatever.
it is literally staffed by local people.
What is
yeah.
it? What do they call the cast? Casted. It was cast. It was cast
Yeah.
by the producers. They cast it not with real people who were cheating, but with fakes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew it was fake. Yes?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So they're just hiring people to
Play the
pretend
parts.
To play the parts. Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought that was very interesting. When I heard that, I was like, what?
Totally not reality. TV.
Totally not reality, but they're putting it off as though it was reality TV. I mean, it was aired as though it was reality TV.
Mhm.
I sometimes wonder about some of the things, like the ones like Wife Swap and
Oh right.
Call the Nanny.
Mm-hmm.
What it was? It was just the Nanny. Maybe I don't remember. Some of those. How much of that was also
Oh, the ones where they take, like on HGTV, where they go and they take people who want to buy a house and they show them 3 different houses on the market,
Right.
and then they pick one of them.
right.
Like, are those people actually going to, because they are always like, I'm a teacher and I'm a pottery maker and I want a $6 million home
Yes.
in
Yes.
Argentina.
Yeah.
And they
yeah.
go house hunters abroad or whatever, and they go looking for these houses that are like way out of normal people's pay range.
Right.
And then they kind of waft back and forth between these 3 different houses, and like, oh, I really like this one, but I hate this one because of the carpet.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Place the carpet.
And
No.
they don't actually like always show people like moving in.
Yeah.
And actually living in them, so
Well,
they
and
just
then
say which one they decide, and
then there's the ones where they like decorate each other's house or whatever. Like they go next door and they do a room, and this one.
So
does
like
the room
one of those house hunting shows, and I can't remember the name of it, but one of my former bosses actually was on
Oh, really?
one of those shows in Dallas,
Oh,
and
okay.
he found his house that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they do actually, like some of them do actually find a house. I
Well,
just wanna
and
point
that
that
one
out.
brought me up to the, like I was saying, one of the ones I first mentioned was Wife Swap. I have a cousin who has a cousin. I don't think I'm related to this person, who was on the Wife Swap show.
Yeah.
And, that's the one where they, maybe they're having some struggles and they pick people that are like total opposites of each other. In this one case, it was a family that had like all tattoos, like the I mean, like completely tattooed head to toe. They had a stripper pole in their living room, things like that. And then they're swapping wives with like this really uptight religious family or something like that.
They always do, yeah, the extreme.
And it was like total extremes, and it really made it sound, sometimes I think some of that stuff was a little bit played up, if you ask me, because
I'm sure, especially like if they're like crazy kids and I'm sure.
So I think I don't know. I can't believe that all of that stuff that you saw on those shows was completely real. That it wasn't like, okay, we know you have a lot of tattoos, so we want you to talk about how you like to spend all your extra money on tattoos. Or, you know, we know that you're real religious, so we want you to say that you have a sit down and study your Bible thing every night before you go to bed or whatever, you know, just to get just to make them look so totally opposite of each other.
Well, we haven't even like touched on like cooking shows, these reality cooking shows.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite shows that I've seen every season of, my husband and I watch it religiously because his favorite chef ever is Gordon Ramsay, Master Chef.
Okay.
And I read an article, because, you know, I like to read up on these things, like an expose on Master Chef. Like the contestants, they have like, they're given like a certain style and attitude, and they have to dress and act a certain way. And like whenever Gordon Ramsay and them go and taste the food or whatever, they're really not tasting like a real food, but like all of like the cooking shots and stuff, like they're like staged action shots of them cooking.
Interesting.
Like they do actually cook the food, but they don't. But
But
Gordon
they don't
Ramsay
do
and
it
them,
on camera.
They don't get to eat it until hours later, and it's like cold and gross.
Yeah.
So it's just like like all of like their reactions to their food, it's kind of fake because they're actually eating cold, perfectly put together food.
And that goes back to another Gordon Ramsay show. I think it's called Hell's Kitchen. Where he goes into these failing restaurants.
Oh no, that's like Restaurant Takeover or something like that.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Or I don't know if it's it's not Bar Rescue, but it's like Bar Rescue. Hell's Kitchen is actual kitchen, and that is a show. They stay there and
they
live
live
there,
and reside,
and then they go and work
and then
every night and work the kitchen, and then
no,
eliminated.
that's not the one I'm thinking of. Okay,
but you're thinking of the one where he goes to people's restaurants
to save
and
their
saves
restaurant.
them.
Yeah, I can't remember what you call it, but you know, they talk about pulling things out of the freezer that are like 3 years old, and it's like there is no way that was real, because
like that's still living.
Yeah, where was the health department? You know, when they're inspecting, why did they not find 3-year-old meat in the freezer?
Like
you know that
meat.
I think a lot of that is fake. I really do. I think a lot of that is fake to make it look really bad.
I hope it's not real.
Some of those kitchens are really bad, though.
Well, I'm not saying the kitchens aren't bad. I'm not saying the kitchens aren't bad, but I'm saying I think they add to it to make it even worse. And I think that's the crux of reality shows, is that I think they add to it to make it even worse than it really is. So it's adjusted reality. Or augmented. There we go. That's the word. Augmented reality. Enhanced reality. Yeah. So, okay, I want to touch on one other reality show before I quit that I actually forgot about at the beginning, and it was one of the kind of early ones. And it's one that I think is probably mostly real, and that is the TV show Cops. Now, I kind of carry that one along with the Rescue 911,
Live PD,
any of those ones where they're following
shows.
The DEA agents. There was
Mhm.
one that they did here on the Border Patrol. I think a lot of
There
those
was
are
like a
real.
SWAT team Dallas or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
I actually met the lead guy on that show because he came and shopped at Dillard's when I was working at Dillard's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those are real. I think it's just follow footage, whatever the real term for that is, I don't know. But, they're just following, they use body cam footage or
Mhm.
whatever,
Police cam.
police
like
cam
a-
videos and there's probably some guy sitting in the back of their squad car following them around, but I think those are by and large mostly real. They probably have to edit out a whole lot of stuff that is worthless.
Oh yeah,
Um,
like them sitting around like stakeout talking about dumb stuff.
Well, or just if you've got an hour long show following this guy, how if you've got 8 hours of his shift,
Yeah.
and if they pulled over 3 people on that episode, that wasn't that whole shift, so how much
Oh
of
yeah.
them just driving around or sitting there, trying to catch somebody speeding or
working overnights at the PD when I used to work for the PD.
Right.
Like that was like pretty boring. There's like maybe 1 or 2 exciting calls. So
Yeah.
they'd have to cut out
a lot
lot
of
that,
boring
yeah.
stuff. So I think by and large it's probably true, and it kind of goes in with that thing, our friend John, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago, talking about being interested in writing a day in the life story. I think those real live day in the life stories are fascinating, like the emergency room stuff, the fire department, whatever. Those are really interesting and for the most part real because these people are not actors. They're not staged. They probably get some compensation of some sort
Mhm.
for being followed. But they have to be very careful in what they present on those shows because there's a lot of liability issues there
Yeah, and
too.
they're
So,
representing their department.
right. So they're, they have to, as far as how much of it is real, the perps that they're pulling over, whose faces are usually kind of fuzzed out or whatever, those are real people. So they're not actors that they've pulled over and pretending that they're pulling people over or whatever, as far as I know. Now, if you've got proof otherwise, I would love to hear about that. Please send us an
Well,
email at
I hadn't
info at
heard
Modern
anything
Musings.
otherwise
Yeah.
about stuff like that.
Right,
like
right. So that, as far as I know, everything on those kind of shows is real reality. Obviously edited down because that's just what you have to do with that. But do you have any others that you can think of that?
I mean, you really like listed off all of.
Gosh, something crossed my mind that we hadn't touched yet, and now it went through my mind. I can't even think about it. Yeah, like I'm trying to grasp it, and when you were talking about cops and stuff like that, something did cross my mind. Like, oh, we should talk about this, but no, I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
No? Okay. I know one thing that just came to my mind was a bunch of other shows that we did not talk about. Like, was it Kate plus 8?
Yeah, that was the one I was. So there's TLC. So reality television. TLC used to have like not live, but recorded surgery operations.
Oh,
and
I
things.
loved the surgery
It was
show.
literally-
Dr. Pimple Popper.
Well, no, before
That-
that,
yeah.
like I'm talking in the 90s when
Yes.
she was on the satellite dish. TLC was like a satellite dish channel.
Well, or cable TV. Yeah.
But yeah,
TLC
but it was
had
like
a lot of.
it was like surgeries and
Yeah,
stuff. It was
yeah.
more scientific.
Yes. It was kind
And-
of like watching National Geographic. This is how this kind of surgery works.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
They
then
were
all of a sudden
fascinating.
they started doing like reality shows of people who are abnormal to show like the differences of people in the world, right?
Right.
And so like the Kate plus 8 the Duggars, they used to have just a documentary. They didn't have a show. They just had a documentary
right.
about them. And then they would circle back like a few years later
The
and do another one.
600-pound sisters or whatever, the
Right.
1,000-pound
yeah.
I mean, those have
sisters,
become
yeah.
like shows now where they
Right.
revisit them every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the Duggars and Kate Plus 8 became big shows like that where they had like actual season of episodes showcasing these abnormally large families.
Right.
The Mormon guy, the Sister Wives guy.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Sister Wives.
Uh-huh.
Well, and then you have like Ree Drummond, who's showing this life. What's the Pioneer Woman? She's
That's a food show.
Yeah, but in a way is
Oh,
a reality
lifestyle
show.
type show.
It is.
Because
Yeah.
she's showing her lifestyle on this Oklahoma farm,
This food cooking show.
and that she's cooking all these food for the family or whatever, and talking about how they live on this farm. So, and there's lots of farm shows also.
And it's really funny because she actually has two kitchens. She's got her TV show kitchen, and then
Yes.
she's got her actual kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Her son goes to UNT now.
One of her daughters went to
Yeah.
A&M, I think. So, yeah. So, yeah, kind of cool.
yeah.
But yeah, those are kind of different also. That they're very different perspective of.
Yeah, when you were talking about children growing up in the camera light, the Duggars and Kate's,
Yeah.
8 children definitely came to mind because her
Mhm.
children were
Babies,
babies when they did that show. And that family actually went from living in this like small home to like, they
Well,
became very wealthy from the
but-
show. And it was kind
right.
of the rise and fall of their family
Right.
too, because I don't think their relationship survived
It didn't.
the
like, they're-
demands
yeah,
of
they're
reality
not.
show.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And then, you have the Duggars who also came from very humble beginnings, who also became very wealthy. But at the same time, I mean, he owned, car sales, and he was a politician as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on behind the
But
scenes,
yeah,
not
then
just
like a
the
lot
show.
of secrets from their family got exposed because they were
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of
In
Yeah.
the limelight,
in
yeah.
the limelight. Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, and actually, honestly, had they not been on a show, that stuff probably never would have come to light.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's probably their saving grace. Those kids got exposed by television.
Right.
Mhm.
Because I know like some kind of members of their family have kind of disassociated from the family because of that.
Right. Right.
But I mean, same thing with their family. They went from living in this like 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom home into building their own home that actually could fit their whole family. in it.
Right.
I believe they made anywhere around $70,000 an episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look at the Robertsons, also the Duck
Yeah.
Commander people. You
Yeah.
know that now they had a successful business with their Duck Commander
Mhm.
products,
Mhm.
but really what made them famous was their show.
Yeah.
It really was. So,
You know what's really interesting is there's a debate about them actually, like, they're notorious for having like the ZZ Top, long hair, long beard.
Oh yeah.
But there's debate about them actually, like, that is a gimmick on the show.
Oh, I'm
That
sure that's
only
a
one of
gimmick.
their family members had hair like that, and the rest of them grew their hair out.
To look
to
like
look
that.
like that,
I
yeah.
bet it was a gimmick. Like that,
Yeah.
that's too perfect. Like it
think so,
looks
too.
too uniform. It's too.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Like they should have kept one guy with short hair. Honestly, though.
No,
Oh, we
it's
didn't even talk about like shows like Storage Wars or
Oh, yeah.
Pawn Stars.
Yep. And those are I don't know how I think some of those probably are a little more on the reality side because I don't know.
Well,
but,
I mean, like
I mean,
on
some of
Pawn
those
Stars,
could
they,
be
like,
staged.
really look into the background of
Right,
that
right.
stuff, and
Right.
then like the Antiques Roadshow, like they
Right.
go to these
Well,
places.
Right. Well, and I think the Antiques Roadshow, I mean, that started out as an actual I don't think it started out as a TV show. I think it started out as an antique show
Mhm.
and they were inviting people to bring their stuff in, and then if it was valuable, they'd make offers on it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I may be mistaken, but I think that's the way that one worked. But there's, I don't know. I just, I feel like most of those are probably pretty legit. The only one that I wonder about is the Storage Wars, because those could be staged very easily.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
like, let's see how much stuff we can throw into a storage locker
because,
and have people bid on it.
Right.
And then pull all the things out and be like, oh man, because there's one that I watched where they pulled the stuff out and it was like some old suitcases and some stinky clothes and then a box of rocks.
Yeah.
There's literally boxes of rocks.
Because, they've got to have like one dud. And that's kind of how each show is like there's one that's like all this money. And I feel like they overestimate on the money as well.
Uh-huh.
And then there's one that's like, oh, negative money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I yeah. Just, yeah. Okay. Well, what are we talking about next week, Amber? I'm over this now.
Amber?
So
What are we talking about? What
are
am
we
I
talking
talking about next week?
what are you talking about next week? I gave you the list.
I know, and I
Yes,
closed it out.
Festival.
Oh, right. I remember now. Next week, we are talking about festivals, which I think is going to be another fun episode
Oh,
because
yeah.
who doesn't like a good festival?
Yeah. My husband, he didn't. No.
Man, I love
Yeah, I
Kristen
do too.
and I used to go back in the day to music festivals.
Oh, and Scarborough Fair. And
Yeah.
all kinds of things. So
We
we're going
got
to talk
lots of
about
things
all
Yeah,
of
we're
them.
going to talk about that. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do. So, yeah, we're going to talk
every
about it.
episode, we're talking about our favorite things,
Well,
I say that every week.
but because we make the list of
this is true,
things that we like.
That's true. That is true. We should start doing some episodes about things we don't like.
Okay, next year.
All right. Well, if you have any comments about reality TV, if we missed one that you think might be fake, or if we said something was fake and you know that it's not fake, we'd love to hear about that.
Mhm.
You can send us an email at info@modernmusings.net, or you can always reach us with a message or start a conversation on our MMC chat website. It's a part of our Facebook. It's a group on Facebook. And you can get right there from our website, modernmusings.net, or from our Facebook page. And we hope that you will join us next week for our discussion about festivals. And if you haven't, go ahead and go back to some of those old episodes you missed. They're all still available wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week. Bye.